Zenaida has helped to create our annual sessions poem, our yearly meeting poem, by weaving together reflections and from the queries that they developed for us to reflect on. Tonight, they will reveal our yearly meeting poem. Zenaida is working with various aspects of the youth programs in several workshops with a lens towards poetry and creative writing. A Boston-based spoken word poet, Zenaida is a fire starter, a Southern green witch, and a queer of color who likes wind chimes outside their window and giving rocks to people whom they love. Most recently, Zenaida was the House Slam team, placing third. Zenaida organized the Feminine Empowerment Movement Slam, the very first tournament for feminine people. Zenaida believes that softness and the floral of people is silenced too very often. Zenaida unwrites the lies they've been given, as well as violence, misogyny, racism, and their ancestors' curses. It is my great pleasure to welcome Zenaida. Zenaida, you are muted.
Oh, I thought I unmuted myself. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be with you all tonight, and I'm so grateful, and it's been awesome working with Olivia and the PYM team. Yeah, you all are really awesome, and I've been thinking about you and curating poems for you for months now, and it's so fun to be here with you now. I'm flipping through all of the pages to look at your faces. Yes, so let us begin. A few things about me, some of which were named in my bio, is that I am a non-binary queer Black person from Georgia. I live in Boston right now, and I'm currently in my childhood home. I imagine that my mom will come home at some point from work. Yeah, I was raised Unitarian Universalist, but after being a fellow and now a staff member at Quaker Voluntary Service, which shout out, like at least 3 of my coworkers are here, which is so fun. I now know that I am a friend, like my grandmother and her parents who traveled here during the Irish famine. Afro-Caribbean religions and spiritualities are also important to me. I invite you all during this session to stay present in your bodies if that feels possible. I've led several online worships the last few months during quarantine, one of them with PYM, and something that I invite folks to do, which you're welcome to practice with me now, is to rub your hands together and then place them on different parts of your body, starting at your feet and slowly working your way up to just like, I feel like there are so many parts of our bodies that we go so long without even touching. If you need to move around during this time, you're welcome to. I invite you to sit on the floor or to pace or to doodle. I invite you to have tea or something sweet. If my Wi-Fi would reach the outside world, I would definitely be outside. So if you want to, you should, and you should tell the trees that I say hello. I'm going to be sharing poems that I've written that showcase my inner life. There will be poems about Black identity, spiritual life, coming to myself, and many other things. I will read for a while, and then we will enter some worship sharing, and we will have the opportunity to do some writing and reading ourselves. And I'll share the collective poem that you all wrote that I curated towards the end. I'm so honored to be your artist in residence during such wild times. With the young people today, I shared that my appreciation for poetry is how accessible it is. You don't have to have a canvas or cameras or a studio to write poetry. I don't need a stage to share with you all. Thank you for joining this meeting for worship with attention to poems. I'm thinking about a plum I ate once, dark, water balloon-like to touch, begging to pour in my mouth. It was so sweet, so ripe, the next day it would have rotten. Is all death like that? My grief likes to imagine. The days before Black trans people are murdered, they can nearly fly. They are bursting from earth. I imagine the creativity is at its highest. Imagine everyone can feel their beauty pronounced and desire overflowing. My grief paints a picture of lives that mattered, that dared to know their own names, that the veil showed them heavenly, glorified, divine love just before the violence. My grief hopes that gave them solace. My grief hopes the pain was drowned out by the feeling of immense belonging in this world, that to live honestly was more important than the probability of living longer in a lie. My grief prays, lights a candle for every new loss. They melt without fire these days. Thank you. What about forgiveness? I am held in my own hands. I am my own lover again. I am the longest night. I forgive myself and the other liars. They would shave my bones while I laugh about how loved I have been this whole time. I did not know. I am a river looking for a morning routine. The beavers believe in me, and we cuddle in my bed in isolation. The church bells chime, and I am okay with not seeing the church. I am unsure about drinking burdock, but I am sure about loving a person forever, loving myself forever. The art of making a home is the business of turning lonely inside out. I am my mother's home repainted. I cannot express how much of a miracle I am. God bless my power. I can do anything I desire. Amen. My dress has an open back. My mom tells me my bra is showing, like I don't know already. My mom tells me I need to cover up at church, says this isn't a club for God's sake, I say it doesn't matter what I look like. God knows me like this. God knows me back open, chest open. God knows me naked and loves this blasphemy. I was gifted makeup, and my grandfather asked where I wore it. I told him church. Thought this was a good answer, even though it was untrue. He said, you shouldn't wear makeup to church. God needs to see you as you are. The gifts he made. I nodded, thought about my lie, how my lie was a cover up, like my makeup is a shield, like it is a lie I love. I wash my face, and it also feels like a lie. I think God is in my foundation, in my palette. I think God is in the colors I don't think will look good on my face. I think I tried them on in my bathroom once, and God was as unsure as I was. I think I found God in the mirror with my femme in my hands and smudged on my face, crying, because a girl doesn't know how to do this right, how to be a child of God, how to girl right, how to create God on her face. I didn't wear it anywhere. Now it sits on my dresser for months, like I haven't been to church in months. And all of those things are still there, sitting on my dresser, church, and my makeup, and God, waiting. I tell my grandfather I won't wear makeup to church. He asks me where I'm taking my body. He wants me to cover it up, wants me to hide it. I am the biggest I have ever been in a crop top and makeup. He doesn't see my body as a truth. He thinks the truth was expanded, like me into a lie. I am the feminist I have ever been, and I think that the space I take up is beautiful. I think the largest of me is power. I think the way feminine, I think the way that feminine can only be power. I think the feminine is afraid of big like we are afraid of the truth. People are deeply interested in the way I show up for God, interested in my truth, because they think that they know God. But God doesn't give a damn. God tells me, I'm so glad you're here on Sundays when I make it to buildings of spirit, and he tells me in my bed when I've slept through my alarm with makeup on my face from the night before and alcohol on my breath. God doesn't forget what I look like. God loves my family when it shows up and when it doesn't. God loves it when I show up and when I don't. God is so glad I'm here. God is so glad. God is so much they forgot to tell you. I have all of my poems in a Google Doc, and I've decided to not go in the order that I put them in. This poem is called I Need to Be Watered Too. My plants have needed water for days, and I've just stared at them, said, you'll be all right, and they all fine, share my morning glasses with me, but there's this little tree I do not know how to take care of. I never looked up the how to care for instructions. I just listened. The tree always said, not here. So I repotted. I asked my vessel, told to undercut, and it said, not here. I listened to tree and it said more space. I listened to body and it said more space. I read an article about body shapers, how it's an ineffective method. I tried to repot us both anyway. I'm sitting up straight, organs in cage. The tree still looks like it's dying. Won't take any of my advice, but I don't blame it. I'm not good at listening either. Thanks. My mom came in. I don't know if you all heard from the from upstairs, and I thought it was funny because she came in during a poem that I wrote about her, and a lot of my poems mention my mom. And I think that I told her that I had a performance tonight, but I think she knows now. This is so fun. I can't see you all, but I'm just gonna keep talking to you in between some of the poems. I think so. As I mentioned, that I might have mentioned before or mentioned in a poem, I didn't really grow up with like a Bible reading practice. Like I grew up with my mom like telling us to like say our prayers. But if anybody knows anything about Unitarian Universalism, I guess they're all kind of different, but nobody really taught me how to pray. So it was like an interesting thing. But in doing Quaker voluntary service, I was introduced to the ways in which like the Bible and Jesus can be used for liberation. The stories can be used for liberation. And I've only ever heard like horror stories. And so I've been saying, if anybody knows anything about astrology, I've been saying that I'm like, or I know nothing about astrology, but I've been saying that I'm Bible curious instead of bi-curious. You get it? I'm gonna tell myself that you're laughing in your own spaces. Okay. But this poem mentions Jesus. The angel said, "Be not afraid." The wise men brought myrrh, here burning, brought frankincense, mixed with cocoa butter in my warm hands. and spread over my damp body. I am clean, finally. The sun is setting on this snowy hill in New England, and I tell people this place has no stained glass windows, no harrowing cross. I tell them I'm not supposed to proselytize, but I like you and this silence so much. We meet in plain buildings. Jesus was born in a barn on straw. We sit on wooden pews, keeping warm in the expansiveness. They say anything can be made a holy house. They say spirit is accessible anywhere. Early Hebrew scripture wrote about Jesus using genderless pronouns. My secret is I believe that genderqueer people are a half a centimeter closer to God. I know I go to meeting, but I love the word church. It's satisfying front to back. My mouth, my body loves the way it feels when it hears that it's been saved. And if we can make anything holy, any place a church, I've been living in one here. I'm breathing Christ in on fire. And this body, my church, just a boundless as a Christmas miracle, just as Jesus as a femme in a dress, healing people for nothing but love. Thank you. Yay, somebody wrote that they were laughing. Oh, I was gonna say, a banter thing that I don't know, or this is one of my favorite Bible facts. I don't know many, but that they brought the three wise men brought Jesus, or the story goes that the three wise men brought Jesus like frankincense and myrrh, and a lot of people. I know we do need a full range of Zoom reactions. But the story goes that he was brought frankincense and myrrh and gold, because they were all like valuable things. But actually the frankincense and myrrh was brought to Mary because they relieve pain. Frankincense and myrrh, oil and resin help with the pain from childbirth. I just think that's so fun. Okay. It is just sunrise at the airport, and the woman asks, "What do I want?" And I say, everything. But what I mean is today, can I have less hard change? Today, can I get kindness and gratitude that comes easy? Can I get a good night's sleep soon? Can I see my mom? Can I sit next to my brother, read the newspaper with my grandfather, wear my dad's shirt to the movies? Cream cheese and peanut butter are your options, she says. But what about justice, or bodegas run by comedians, or the twin black boys being pushed in a stroller? Doesn't that come with everything? Your bagel, ma'am, your bagel is ready. So, a lot of my work, a lot of my poetry grew out of the poetry slam scene in Boston, and nationally. I've competed around the country, and I really love that community. And there's like it's a very specific like type of writing and type of performance and poetry. So I will be reading a couple of slam poems, and the next one is one of those. And I wrote this like towards the end of my QVS here, so that's like the context. My 6 housemates are straight every single day. Pride. They forget about all this queer and want me to do things for them in June. Pride. Forget about Black History Month and expect me to do things for them in February. Proud. I will be nowhere they can think of to find me. Pride. I will be nowhere I can think of to find me, I think. Proud. The last time I was in the South, we made eggnog and didn't talk about all our friends that have died or been locked up since graduation. How we march for Black lives because it is personal. Last time I came home, I came out again. They don't like the ways I keep queering myself, still hoping it is a phase. I love them all anyway. Proud. Tomorrow is the protest. Proud. Tomorrow is the parade. Pride. Today, I went to urgent care because my heart has been pounding. This dull and frequent sensation, the feeling of a march erupting under your feet. My friend thought it was a metaphor. Their Lyft driver laughs, said the doctor cannot fix a broken heart. My mother says it's just stress. She says she knows I know how to take care of myself, but I get too wrapped up in things and I forget pride. I forget pride. I forget pride. I'm afraid of the parade, of forcing my body into lines of police assaultants that are complacent in the killing of Black children. Proud. I don't know how to celebrate Stonewall. Pride, homelessness, or the deaths. Pride, the things that come along with coming out. Pride, the things that come along with being a part of the diaspora. Black and proud. I do not know what to do with a heart that will not stop demanding attention. Being a femme of color means I look like an ally. They know nothing of our pride parades every day through Black and brown communities, knows nothing of our riots, how our violence birthed their privilege. I'm afraid of the parts of me that have to stay silent. How the queer community forgets me, how the Black community invalidates me, and I defend them all anyway. March for them all anyway. The doctor called, said my heart seems normal, said I'm Black and alive. Pride. Said I'm queer and alive. Proud. I left the health center to go to a queer open mic in a Black neighborhood, and we weren't ghosts. We were loud and beating. Thanks. So I'm going to slightly switch gears. I decided today that I wanted to share this song that I wrote for you all. This year, I've been trying to conquer a different fear every month. And one of the fears that I had was around singing and publicly. And so it was a fear I conquered a while ago. And I started taking ukulele lessons. So I wrote this song, and I'm going to paste the lyrics in the chat just because I'm unsure if the closed caption is going to pick up all of the words. I also, I would love to blame my out of tune ukulele with on the internet and it just being like, the connection or the audio, but actually this ukulele that I have been traveling with doesn't really stay in tune very long, so I'm hoping that it's okay, but we'll see. So that was the first half of the lyrics, and I'm about to post the other half. Don't hold me to it if it's not exactly what happens. Okay. Thanks, friends, so much for all of your love in the comments. I appreciate it. Okay. God didn't give us a body didn't give us any hands. God didn't give us a voice, didn't gift us any land. Watch our people die, we will fight, we will fight, we will fight, until we bring our people home. Open up the gates, open the cells, open up the walls, let our people live. Open up the gates, open the cells, open up the walls, let our people live. This song is for Rita, this one's for George, this song is for Remy, for Elijah, this one is for Tony, for Ahmad, for Ishar. We will not wait in the rough for nice white people. It has never been enough. Free Turtle Island, free Palestine, free Africa, and free my mind. I am angry. I am angry. I have the wrath of my grandmothers, of the oak tree, of the poplar, of the Atlantic. We will fight, we will fight, we will fight, until we bring our people home. Open up the gates, open the cells, open up the walls, let our people live. Open up the gates, open the cells, open up the walls, let our people live. Thanks for bearing with the out of tune ukulele. Thank you. So fun. Singing is so important. You know, we should just all do it more. Thank you, John, for saying that ukuleles are always out of tune. That's very supportive. So I'm gonna share some poems that tip a hat back to earlier writing of mine, but that I still appreciate. I think I wrote this when I was in college, or maybe just after. It's called a yoga. There's a part 1 and part 2, but I'm gonna just like smooth into it. In the dance studio of my white college, not wearing proper yoga attire, using an abandoned mat. The yoga instructor told us to fold forward, then move 3 inches higher to lessen the stretch. Said often we go to the deepest expression, we don't need to. Take on more than we can handle. Go to places we don't understand. My body began to shake the way it had for weeks. The body has a way of explaining things the mind isn't able to comprehend, like non-indictments, like hatred aftermaths. Like aftermaths that feel a lot like starting poses, in a forward fold, in a plank, in Savasana. My body shook the way it had when I was sleeping, but never when we pushed to break the line of police. The way it did when I was in class, but never when I was screaming, chanting, no justice, no peace. The way it did when I couldn't go to class anymore, but not when white men looked at me, never when they shouted with signs that said he deserved to be shot. We mourned together. Organized Black people is a threat. Organized white people is a yoga class. I am on the corner of anger and adrenaline on every street in Boston. Militarism is no stranger here. This is a battleground. In war, Men are taught to not waver on enemy grounds. In Black and brown bodies, we are taught not to waver in grocery stores, when talking to white people, in culturally appropriated yoga studios, on football fields, and in our homes, when the insides of us become public, become statement, become self-defense in unarmed situations, become an unnecessary urge of survival by white men. When it happens, our bodies understand. They tell us something is wrong through illness, anxiety, and the way we shake for people who look like us, who've had their lives taken in the most unforgivable way. And the deepest expression isn't just in warrior pose. The deepest expression is in pushing forward. This isn't brave, this is fighting back. Survival isn't brave, it's fighting back. Thank you. So I'm starting to maybe get towards the end of what I was planning on sharing with you all. I have a few more poems. I think there was one I skipped. It's also an older poem. Yeah, and it's about being a queer person growing up in the South. And yeah, I'll let it speak for itself. It's called Breakfast for Dinner. Loving a woman is as easy, as natural, as breakfast for dinner. The eggs and toast never protest because of the time. I've always loved wholly, completely, unbounded, and terrified, and I've always loved breakfast. But there are some people who do not believe in waffles at dinner time, think it's easy to make steak natural. They say everything belongs somewhere and breakfast has no place at the dinner table. Growing up, my best friend was a girl named Dawn. Dawn went to church every Sunday, just like we did, but hers was big. And they talked about God as if he lived there, as if he took all of the half-empty cups and filled them with coffee, as if he said breakfast is on the house. My mother had nowhere to put my brother and I after she divorced my father, so we went to Dawn's house. There was structure. Everything was straight and neat and in its place. They asked us what we wanted for dinner. I always said breakfast on Sundays. My family and I would go to the Unitarian Universalist Church, a building hidden in the back of the woods, a rainbow flag waving in the wind outside. We sat next to leather jackets, Buddha, and stained glass windows. Afterward, I went to Dawn's church, had another meal my mother didn't have to make. They never had breakfast. There was structure. Everything was straight and neat and in its place. They were organized, told us about sins, taught us what love was supposed to look like, what it wasn't supposed to look like. I asked my mom what it all meant. She pointed out the people that Dawn's church was talking about in our service. I stepped out of line, got a little unorganized, thought about the lesbian couple at my church, thought about our lesbian next door neighbors with their newborn and their gardens. None of the adjectives I could think of to describe them were blasphemous. I picked up a Bible for the first time, tried to lawyer my way to a truth that meant that crooked was okay, that everything doesn't need to be straight and neat and have a place. My mom tells me the lesbians are moving away, so they are done having breakfast ripped off of their dinner table, tired of this Bible Belt scrutiny. I told Dawn's family about what I thought about people who love wholly, completely, unbounded, and terrified. Because that is who I was in the deep South without a prayer, trying to figure out what love meant in someone else's home, in someone else's church, fighting through someone else's truth. I decided that I am loving wholly, completely, unbounded, so terrified, but I am not moving my body, who I love, or my breakfast from this dinner table. And yes, it tastes even more delicious. Thanks. I think I said this before, that I'm in my mother's house. And so this poem I wrote a really long time ago, but like I was having like visceral memories come back during this while reading it, because also I'm just like so close to Don's house. I'm so close to the church that I'm describing in the poem, and also this month I'm working on my fear of being a child and like doing inner child work. And so I think that maybe makes sense, but I'm holding that. Oh, someone asked a question in your poem. The angel said, "Be not afraid." I'll circle back and find that line for you when we break into groups. Okay. And also, yeah, I'll read the chat when people break out, and then answer questions, because because I'm slow right now, but I'll circle back. Okay. This is another poem that I wrote for Poetry Slam. It's also about my mom. I woke up to my mama's voice, and it wasn't erasure. Sometimes I wake up a boy, switch to nothing by noon, go to sleep a girl. My pronouns are Black. My pronouns code switch. My gender is a girl whose mama has not yet told them how to behave, who races and fights and leaves their legs open in dresses. My gender is chasing my brother for everything he stole from me. My pronouns, seeing my mama play every gender role. My gender is Ebonics looking me in the eye saying, "You child, woman, feminine thing, rammed over, picked at, sliced up on the way into my salon are also me." My gender hasn't started the habit of reminding themselves of their race, reminding them that they are a girl, that girls like boys. My gender is unteaching what they learned me. My pronouns are a Black child watching people who look like them drown in Ward 9. So my pronouns are silent, are polite with strangers. My pronouns avoid the police. The Black of me wants to survive long enough to have an identity politic. How do you go from being a slave to a gendered thing? From a mule to a person and expect gender to function the same across race? My gender went to my mama's alma mater, a white woman-centered college in a city that gentrifies people of color to the margins. They tried to do the same to my gender. No one asked me my pronouns. Whiteness asks Blackness why they could not transition from sugar plantations to beauty pageants more gracefully. My pronouns and I lay in bed together, and we don't know how to cut up, but my gender, so pretty in all of those dresses, flinches. My pronouns understand the significance of the Mason-Dixon in the Southern summertime. They are the belle, the peach, the yes ma'am they need to be. And it does not render them invisible the way it is supposed to. I know how to survive myself. My pronouns are my mama and every other Black woman calling me girl. My gender sees themselves in the calluses of people who call me lovely. My gender loves my body so much. It sticks to me under all of these clothes. In between my legs, there's a non-binary brown love letter written to the multitudes of me. My pronouns start every poem by my mama, who don't want to hear about the things white people taught me anymore. I said, white people didn't teach me how to be brown, how to overcome, how to gender. Mama, my body taught me that. Our ancestors taught me that. You taught me that. I watched you. Thanks. So we have arrived to the last poem, my last poem for you all. I have, I started my reading with one of the most recent poems that I wrote, and this last poem is also one of the more recent poems that I wrote in processing uprisings. And yeah, I'm excited to continue sharing space with you all after my last poem for tonight. Thank you. I gave up on taking a shower before it even began. Hyperventilating happens when all of my ancestors try to breathe at different times in this body, desperate. This grief makes it easy for my great-great-grandmother to escape from enslavement right here with this lukewarm bath heavily disturbed. I say I'm sorry in succession, and my ancestors are screaming, wailing. I do not have the energy to stand, and we all yell like this until the water runs cold, and even then, I hear them say, I am tired of running out of my mouth. I hear them say, I am tired of drowning, and I scream over the sound of the Atlantic Ocean. My chest heaves. I am so tired. I am so tired. I am so tired. And this body holds the restlessness of my great-great-grandchildren that want to be free. I carry myself to the bed, undressed and dripping. I have the audacity to ask myself to get it together. And I do not, defiantly, for the first time. I am comforted by a sanctuary of ghosts I usually refuse to see. Thank you all so much. Thank you so much. It's amazing how I can be like in the den of my mother's house and like really feel your presence while I am reading. We are gonna take some time for some worship sharing, some worship together. And our lovely staff are gonna put folks into breakout groups. And so, you know, regular worship sharing business, like hold some space, feel welcome and invited to share feelings that you all have or anything that is rising in you. And we'll be in that space for 10, it's hard to say 10 to 15 minutes when it's like actually has to be a certain amount of time. Maybe we'll say 15 minutes. And then we'll come back and write together. And folks will have opportunities to share with the larger group if they feel moved. Thank you all so much. And whenever you're ready, DJ, you can break folks into groups.
Okay, Zenaida, you're all set. I'm gonna extend the invitation for folks to join the breakout spaces for 15 minutes. Zenaida, would you like me to put any queries in the chat, or did you invite folks to do the worship sharing? You're muted.
Thank you. I invited folks to do the worship sharing because I think we have time to make room for both.
Great.
Yeah.
Your performance was beautiful.
Thank you.
The yearly meeting poem, will you share that with us before our time is over?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think after they get back from worship sharing and before writing, that's what I was thinking.
Great. We plan to share that this evening in our email communications.
Great.
It was beautiful.
Yay.
Yeah, it's been a great gift to be here with you. And I'm whispering because there's a breakout group happening over there in the same space, but sharing much love.
Zachary, your lighting is kind of like rave-like.
I know, isn't it weird? I don't know why it's doing that. Thank you.
I like it.
Zenaida, I hope this was okay that I just did this. So I used to be in higher ed, and I'm on a bunch of higher ed Facebook groups. So I shared your Facebook page with folks. I know people are looking to do programming, and I just think people need to bring you to campuses and hear your voice.
Thank you so much. That's awesome. I appreciate that.
Sure.
I just got online. I had another call. I'm just hanging out here. Question mark.
Hi, Sue. I sent you an invitation if you'd like to go into a worship sharing group.
Okay. I don't, where do I get that? I don't see it.
Let's see. Are you on a tablet or a phone or?
I'm on a phone. An iPhone, or not an iPhone, an Android. It's just not an iPhone.
Yeah. Do you see space on your Zoom app that has breakout rooms?
Join breakout room. Oh,
Yay.
but it disappeared. Oh, and just push it?
Yes. Yay. I will be right back. Sophie, my dog, needs to go out really quickly, so I'll be right back. I enlisted Emmeline's help. Zenaida, how was your trip to Georgia?
It was it was just fun. I've never driven that far. I was not by myself, but my friend who was with me cannot drive. So but I've never driven that long, just myself doing the driving. And so it's fun to know I can do it because
Yes.
I have to do it going back.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you in
so
Georgia right now?
I am.
Oh, cool. I wasn't sure but I knew you were from the South. And so it makes sense that your mom is not with you in Boston. So,
Right.
and I've resumed the recording.
Cool.
Oh, Claire, I love your heart.
I'm not good at chat, and I've been flashing this and you've not noticed it. You're quite moving. You're quite moving. For me, I don't have an opportunity to be around young people. So I feel out of touch, and sometimes I think that young people are just really dense. And they don't have the kind of sensitivity. Boy, did you ever? You moved us, the group that I was in. Your words are coming from a truth that was profound, and truth, knowing oneself, knowing God is all that there is. That completes the wholeness. And you express that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Claire. And thank you for your heart. I appreciate that so much. I also, someone asked about a specific line. I've pasted it here. And folks also asked about where they can find my work. I have videos on YouTube of some of the poems that I performed tonight. And you can
Thank you.
find them. You can find them by searching my name, and maybe poetry as well. And I also have a published book of poem chapbook that I could mail to folks. And you can email me about buying a chapbook at my email I'm just putting in the chat. It's just my first name, last name at yahoo.com. I'm hoping to put out another book of poems soon. So we've arrived, friends, to the portion of the evening where I read you the poem that you all wrote that I just pieced together. Thank you so much to everybody who contributed lines to this poem. I think it's really exciting. This was a really fun project for me to be able to do for you all. So I'm going to read it now. The poem by Philadelphia Yearly Meeting. Am I a little Quaker child like my ancestors? Am I a different Quaker now? Give the police departments to their grandmothers. Give the meetings to the young people. I found empty spray cans on the side of the road dancing in a pearly reflection of the sky. And there beside it, the brilliant color of yearning, etched graffiti, Black Lives Matter. Will they listen? Will we listen? Will I listen this time? Some of us have always lived and found spirit in the shadows. Some of us are just learning the shadows exist. Much ugliness has been exposed. Shadows protect fear, partly. We want it carefully, guarded. We invite worry and loneliness to reside with us. In darkness, our fear is us, and our anger is us. And we fight light. We fight until community breaks in, entering to dispel, bring light in spite of our fear. A different narrative is possible. Imagination is the key to make us new. Leaning out of the shadows, I can see the light, light that blinds and warms. In the shadows, things are clearer and cooler. The outline of a shape you didn't know was there, grounding your feet to the earth. In the shadows, dark matter, wait to be illuminated. Distant spirit of newborn stars. Voices struggle to speak truth. Faith is the bird that sings for the dawn while it is still dark out. It is dark out, is it not? Wait, what's that I see on the horizon? All of creation has its rightful place on Mother Earth, with a story, glory, acknowledgement, apology, joyfully, lovingly, simply being where one belongs. Being faithful means turning away from the shadows to the light, resting in the shadow of a threshold full of pause. Hands all around, lifting, holding, guiding, suspending, waiting, pushing, saying, you will know. Listen in the doorway. Feel the fullness of liminal space. Welcome the uncertainty. Faithfulness, faithful is in this place too. Lighting a candle chases away darkness, but you must tend its flame steadfastly so the wind doesn't blow it out. Applause to you all for writing such a fun and important and exciting poem. We're gonna spend some time hanging out in our own writing. I invite folks to grab a notebook or a pencil or open a tab on their computer to you just have received a lot of information. And I invite you to do some free writing. You are welcome to just write whatever comes to mind, wherever you're feeling led. And one of the staff members is also going to share the questions that people, these are the queries that folks wrote to create this poem. How do we find spirit in the shadows? What does it mean to be faithful right now? Were the two queries. And so people are welcome to write on those queries, either for the first time or again. You're also welcome to free write and let spirit move you. Writing is one of my favorite spiritual practices, and as a spiritual practice that I feel like I had access to as a small person first. One of the first spiritual practices I had access to, and I love the process of like letting go to spirit and just writing. So you're invited to do that, and folks are welcome to write for about the next 10 minutes, and then we'll open it up to the body if people want to share. You do not need to, but if people feel moved, you're welcome to.
Zenaida,
yeah.
I'm also noticing that Sue Lynn has her hand raised.
Oh, okay.
Zenaida, I just wanted to share with you something. I just wanted to share with you something that I shared with my small group, which is I'm a sign language interpreter, and there's a sign for taking your heart and putting it out there. And I feel that's what you did tonight.
Thank you. So we'll circle back in about 10 minutes. Thank you all so much for showering me with love. I'm excited for you all to have space to write. Hi, Mommy. Thank you. No, Mommy. I'll do it. Maybe finish up that line if you're coming to an ending point. I have to tell you all a funny thing that happened while we were writing is I was writing as well, and I wrote a line about the generosity of peaches, and then my mom just brought me a plate of peach slices, and isn't that God? You know? Like, I just thought that was so funny. I was like, Mom is like on time. And I was like, maybe she heard me. And then I was like, no, I wrote that down. It was silent. So funny. But I am going to open up this space for a sort of open mic. So if folks feel moved to share what they have written, you are really welcome to. And I think Olivia or someone else on staff will be like looking for your hands to raise. And then we'll call on you. And yeah, I'm so excited to hear what some of you wrote if you're interested to share.
Okay, the first person, we have a few hands raised, Zenaida Supply. If you could unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
All right. It's not exactly a poem, but here we go. When the sun shines and I go out for a walk, to keep my Fitbit happy that I'm putting in at least 250 steps an hour. When I'm moving, I give silent thanks to God for the sunshine, for the breeze, for the blue skies and good health, for a loving husband, for a safe home. But what if it all disappears? Will I be as grateful and spiritual when it's gone? I want to believe my mustard seed sized faith will still blossom even when all is lost, that I'll remember my gratitude from today and still look up. Yeah.
I love that. Thank you.
Thanks.
That's beautiful. Sue Lynn.
My breath this week has been breathing in beauty. So why now is it catching painfully in my chest? Do I need to let it flow out more freely? Let the air fill and be palpable with beauty when we share it. When people gathered in our capital to send off the beautiful soul of John Lewis, it had not been raining, yet the air became palpable with the beauty of a double rainbow. I am sure no one was holding their breath tightly inside. We must have all been exhaling.
Thank you.
I'm going to leave just a little space in between each reading before I call the next person. Wanda.
Get out your flashlights, your headlamps, your candles, and the flashlight amps on your phone. We need to bring light to the shadows of systemic racism. And those shadows are long, wide, and deep. Staying faithful means shining our lights, no matter how small we feel it is. Forget the more the merrier, the more the brighter, I say. Then it'll come merry.
Ooh.
Ellen Deacon. Ellen, if you can unmute yourself.
Sorry. I'll start over.
Thank you.
She bathed in the horror and suffering and the capacity to survive of her ancestors. She emerged dripping and not shuffling off the residue of that journey as if it could be wiped away. She stayed there. She stays here. She stays with all that is within and before and behind her, and faces what comes with all her being. And I have walked through the swamp of my ancestors' lives, those who committed these horrors on her ancestors. I have stayed with them. I have sought to open my deepest being, to invite some hint of what has to happen to a human being so that they will commit these atrocities day in and day out for the sake, they think, of their own livelihood. I do not embrace fragility. It takes a tough white person to journey back and stay open and see with her mind's eye and her heart's throb and her voice's deepest sounds, and acknowledge what it is possible for people to do to other people. And know she carries that in her genes and lives off the bounty of it and has been set up to keep it going. And I keep going with some things, with remembering and claiming and learning from my heritage, with connecting and sharing and facing the horrors with my fellow descendants and with all of us in a sense who benefit from life in today's world. We are all descendants. And I decide before, now, ongoing, to face up to and work to stop what it has done to us.
Marianne and Patrick.
Faces in boxes on my computer screen. Friendly faces with a capital F. Called together with hearts laid open, with ears straining to hear the lyrics of poems spoken like music. Thank you, Zenaida, for being a channel to transport us virtually through the shadows into the faith we are all seeking. Into a land where BLM and queer are not epitaphs on alley walls, but living, breathing human beings whose rallying cries unite our hearts as one. Thank you.
Ray and then Yelena.
I'm not much of a poet, but I was inspired by the Breakfast for Dinner poem. So, a friend shared that being queer is like breakfast for dinner, but everyone is always pulling on the tablecloth, trying to send all the plates clattering to the floor. Pride is inviting everyone over for brunch. Pride is the cars flooding the streets of our neighborhood. The smell of fresh coffee and blueberry pancakes float through the air, making the neighbors jealous. They whine about not being invited, but they have never invited us to dinner, and they have never stopped to clean up the plates that still litter my floor.
Loving leaping across the flooding heavens into the warbling warming yonder where the bushes grow like pine trees, tall and tesseract, lithe and long, and trees stretch up to the clouds with branches bent in perpetuity. Only twigs can still move without a soughing wind. Consider the lilies, how they sing. They trace a whole warm wandering through heaven and earth and under earth. I lift my whole body and voice like a wide open plate filled with the biggest portions of rice and earth, cheese and harmony, bigots and death. They rot like weevils between my teeth, twist and squirm. What is this vile destiny we cannot help but keep? What do we have but love to keep us from the deep?
Sarah Palmer and then Christy.
Spirit is in both candle flame and wind. fire's heart of brightness, leaping in the storm. Wind's freshness challenge, air that feeds all fire. We must tend the balance. Welcome wind's deep breath that laps us round. Cherish the flame that staggers and stands upright. Cradle the warmth in the burrow of our hands. Let it smile up and out and gather strength. Let us be half shelter and half stage. Let us be blanket with its corner raised. Let one hand beckon and the other raise.
I find myself with a new way of experiencing God, the way of rocks crushing and grinding together with my body crushing and grinding. So different from that slow experience that I'm familiar with. A nice way of experiencing God doesn't cut it in the shadows.
At this time, I'd like to see if anyone who is joining us by phone would like to share. If you could unmute yourself by dialing *6 and then just speaking. I'm not noticing anyone from the phone wanting to share. Before I turn this back to Zenaida, I'm wondering if anyone else would like to share. Carol Lee?
Thank you. Can we please see each other with love? Can we stand together under the clear night sky, heart to heart and hand to hand? Can we step across the sharp edges of group versus group, of race versus race, of age versus age, of sex versus sex, of faith versus faith, of me versus you? The truth is clear. We are all equal and precious. We are all children of the universe. We all have a right to be here, to love and be loved, to speak from the heart. Can we please join together in a symphony of spirit? Can we hear the love that is sent our way, feel the love that is sent our way? Can we move forward in unity and kindness, in appreciation and awe? Can we love each other as we are loved and know that love to be real?
Thank you for sharing, friends.
Thank you all so much for inviting me to be your artist in residence and for sharing this evening with me. I felt so much love and care from you, and felt really at home in this space and sharing. So I'm filled with gratitude, and I hope that everyone has wonderful slumbers and that you return to the things that you wrote and that you continue to write. And I hope to share space with you all again soon. I'm going to pass it back over to Olivia, who has some final announcements.
Okay. Thank you so much, Zenaida. This was a beautiful time together. Thank you. So before we start with announcements, this will be the time that we would love to do this screenshot of our community together on Zoom. So Shelley, I'm wondering if you're prepared to do that at this point.
Yes, please.
Okay, great. This would be a good time if you would not like to be in the picture, although I would really love each and every one of you on this picture. If you're not comfortable, please stop your video. So let me just scroll through to make sure everyone is still okay. Okay, Shelley.
Okay, I have hidden non-video participants. We're only showing people who have their video turned on. I'm going to take screenshots across the 3 screens. So please hold your smile for at least 5 seconds for me, okay? Ready? Cheese. Awesome.
Thank you, Shelley. Okay, I would love to give a couple of announcements before turning this back to Jonathan to close our time together. I'd like to, so every evening after our keynotes, there'll be a space and a time for us to do announcements together. And if you have an announcement that you would like us to share with the community, please email sessions@pym.org, and we will be sure to either get them in the morning announcements or in the evening announcements. If you have an epistle contribution, please reach out to us the same way, sessions@pym.org, and we will forward that to the epistle committee. Last evening, I spoke about our quarter books and how we're able to preserve that tradition, although we are apart from each other. And if you go to the PYM website, you will click on the annual sessions logo on the home page. That will bring you to the sessions page, and you will see quarter books listed on the right-hand side. Just click on that link and it's super easy. Just enter your name and your email, your quarter, and your monthly meeting. And you get to sign your name too, which is super fun. We have worship sharing happening tomorrow afternoon. We have a time change on that. It's from 1 to 4. The Zoom link will be in tonight's memo email that goes out later in the evening. We have added a new Bible study with Chris Moore, and that's new to our program, and that will be on Friday and Saturday afternoon from 1 to 2. There is not a registration for that, and so I will send the Zoom link for that information out in tonight's email. I also have another note from Melinda Wenner-Bradley and Meg Rose. There's a worship sharing time for parents and caregivers on Saturday evening from 9 to 10 p.m. And it's a time for parents, grandparents, foster parents, expecting parents, and guardians of infants to teens to gather for a time of grounded listening, spiritual care, and joy together. The space is hosted in the Young Adult Friend Evening Program time for YAF and youth program families, and will be facilitated by Melinda Wenner Bradley and Meg Rose. If you have not registered and are interested in attending, connect with Melinda or Meg by email. I think that's all the announcements I have. Jonathan?
Friends, let's close with a few minutes of worship.